Welcome back to PROtalks. I'm Nate Halubka with the North Carolina Pandemic Recovery Office. And in this particular PROtalk, what we're going to be talking about are the Corona Relief Funds, and specifically the Attachment F, that form that you use to help close out your funds. Now, we've been getting a lot of questions about this as a lot of entities are reaching the end of the phase of their funds, and they wanted to make sure that they're submitting kind of a good summary of that. And the Attachment F is where that happens. So let's look at some of the things that make one of these actually really good. So first up, this may come without saying, but make sure that you fill out this top line. Let us know who you are. We're working with a lot of entities, and if this is overlooked, it does help us, or it does kind of hurt and slow down the process. So make sure you tell us who you are. Second up, towards the top of the attachment F, it's not a bad idea for you to kind of give a general summary of how you use the funds overall. Number 3, highlight the amount of funds that you received and the amount of funds that you used and any accrued interest that you had with it. It really helps kind of create those bookends of how much money came in, how much money went out, and documentation that it was all used. And again, this leads into the next point, point number 4. Please present that all the funds were used if that's actually the case. It helps us understand that you know that the funds were used, and it also helps us kind of bookend and see if any funds need to be redistributed or if you really are done. It helps both parties understand kind of where things are at towards the end of the process. All right, so tip number 5, summarize the use of your funds by the category areas. Tip number 6, aggregate each one of those. Now we know that there's use categories, and those may have changed from what the allotments that you had may have changed as you went through. And this aggregate amount by category really helps us see where things really lined up or where they ended at. Now we've talked about your categories. So tip number 7 is if you can't remember what those are, simply reference the plan that you had submitted towards the beginning of the process. That'll help you understand what you had outlined as the categories that you were going to try and use the funds within. So tip number 8, and this one is really, really important. We'd like you to summarize the impacts of that the funds made on your community. Everybody knows that these funds have been used in positive ways. Just take a little bit of time to tell us what those were. Tip number 9. So in cases where you may have forwarded funds or had a subrecipient relationship with your funds with another entity, we'd like to know what those impacts were as well. It doesn't have to be as robust as an overview, but if you can, just give us some insight into that. Last thing, if you have any questions, by all means, reach out to us. We'll be glad to answer. Now, certainly all these things are things that don't absolutely have to be in there, but like we said, these are top 10 things that you can do to make sure that you're submitting a really good attachment F. We hope this helps, and we'll see you next time with the next NC Pro Talk. Thank you. Goodbye.